The massive warship Death's wing cut through the dark space like a metal beast hunting for prey. Its black hull stretched for miles, covered in sharp spikes and glowing red lights. This was the pride of Queen Nixara's fleet, the most feared. Ship in the Vorthic Empire, Queen Nixara stood on the bridge, her tall reptilian form casting a long shadow. Her green scales shimmered under the ship's lights, and her yellow eyes watched the stars with cold hunger. She wore a crown made from the bones of her enemies and a black cape that flowed behind her like smoke. "My queen," called out Commander Be'ora from her station, "we have found a damaged human ship. It looks like a cargo vessel." The queen's lips curved into a cruel smile, showing her sharp teeth. "Perfect. I need new entertainment for Infernus. Bring me the humans alive." Deep in the belly of the Death's wing, something massive stirred in the darkness. Infernus, the queen's prize dragon, was longer than 3 school buses put together. His scales were black as night, but they glowed with inner fire when he was angry. His claws could tear through steel like paper, and his plasma breath could melt a battleship in seconds. The dragon had been the queen's weapon for 10 years. No one else could control him. The queen used her mind powers and old magic to keep him under her command. Infernus had destroyed entire fleets and burned whole cities to ash. He was the reason other alien races feared the Vorthic Empire, but today the queen wanted to have some fun before the next battle. The human cargo ship Lucky Star was badly damaged. Its engines were broken and half the lights were out. The crew of 12 had been trying to fix their ship when the Vorthic warship appeared like a nightmare from the darkness. Hyon wiped grease from his hands as he heard the alarms. He was the ship's mechanic, a quiet man in his 30s with kind eyes and strong hands. While the other crew members ran around in panic, Hyon stayed calm. He had fixed 1,000 broken things in his life. "Panic never helped anything get better. They're scanning us," shouted Captain Lee from the bridge. "It's a Vorthic ship." Fear filled the air like cold water. Everyone knew about the Vorthic Empire. They were cruel, lizard-like aliens who loved war and conquest. They took prisoners as slaves or food for their war beasts. Hyon looked at his tools one last time. He put his favorite wrench in his pocket and said a quick prayer. If he was going to die today, at least he would face it with dignity. The attack was swift and brutal. Vorthic fighters swarmed around the Lucky Star like angry wasps. Their weapons cut through the cargo ship's weak shields in seconds. Boarding pods slammed into the hull, and alien soldiers poured inside. The Vorthic warriors were 7 feet tall with green scales and red eyes. They carried plasma rifles and wore black armor covered in spikes. They moved through the ship like they owned it, which they now did. Hyon and his crewmates were forced to their knees in the cargo bay. The alien soldiers spoke in harsh, growling voices. Their leader, a scarred warrior named Kekstar, looked at the humans like they were meat in a market. "Weak creatures," Kekstar hissed in broken human language. "You come with us. Queen decides if you live or die." The prisoners were dragged to the Vorthic ship in metal chains. Hyon tried to remember everything he saw. The alien technology was amazing but also terrifying. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with dark energy. Strange symbols glowed and moved like living things. They were thrown into detention cells deep inside the ship. The cells were small and cold, with bars made of some kind of energy field. Hyunwoo's cellmates were crying or praying, but he sat quietly and listened. The ship was huge, but he could feel vibrations through the metal floor. Years of working with engines had taught him to read the signs. This ship had powerful engines, advanced gravity systems, and something else. Something big that moved around in the lower levels. Every few hours, a deep roar echoed through the ship. The sound was so powerful it made the walls shake. Some kind of creature lived on this ship, and it was angry. "What was that?" whispered Jeho, one of his crewmates. "I don't know," Hyon said softly. "But whatever it is, it's in pain." The other prisoners looked at him strangely. How could he know that from just a sound? Hyon had always been good at understanding machines and animals. His grandmother used to say he could hear what broken things were trying to tell him. The roars from below weren't just angry. They were full of hurt and sadness. 3 days passed before Queen Nixara came to see her new prisoners. She walked into the detention area like a dark queen from a nightmare story. Her royal guards followed behind her, their weapons ready. The queen looked at each prisoner with her cold yellow eyes. Most of the humans pressed themselves against the back walls of their cells, trembling with fear. But when she came to Haiyan-Wu's cell, she stopped. The human mechanic stood up and looked right back at her. He didn't bow or beg. He just watched her with calm, intelligent eyes. "Interesting," the queen said in perfect human language. "This one is not afraid. Should I be?" Haiyan-Wu asked simply. The queen laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh yes. Little human, you should be very afraid. Do you know what I do with prisoners?" "I imagine you have a big creature that needs feeding," Haiyan-Wu said. "I can hear it roaring from down here." The queen's eyes narrowed. No human had ever spoken to her like this before. They usually begged for their lives or tried to make deals. This one was different. "You will meet Infernus soon enough," she said with a cruel smile. "But first, I think I will keep you alive for a while. You amuse me." As the queen walked away, her advisor Era whispered, "Sister, that human is dangerous. He shows no fear." "Exactly," Queen Nixara replied. "That makes him interesting. I want to see how long his courage lasts when he meets my dragon." That night, as the other prisoners slept fitfully, Haiyan-Wu lay awake listening to the ship. The roars came again, but this time he heard something else. Pain, yes, but also loneliness. Whatever creature lived below was suffering, and it had been suffering for a long time. Haiyan-Wu had always believed that every problem had a solution. You just had to understand what was really wrong before you could fix it. Soon, he would get his chance to try. The next morning, Queen Nixara kept her promise. She gave Haiyan-Wu access to the ship's engineering sections and assigned him a helper. The helper was Taemin, a young Vorthic engineer who looked nervous about working with a human. Tae-Min was smaller than most Vorthic warriors. His green scales were bright and clean, showing he had never been in battle. He wore simple work clothes instead of armor, and his yellow eyes were curious rather than cruel. "I am supposed to help you," Taemin said in careful human language, "but I do not understand why the queen trusts you." "She doesn't trust me," Haiyan-Wu replied, gathering tools from the engineering bay. "She just wants her dragon to be strong." Again, the engineering section was impressive. Advanced computers lined the walls, showing pictures of the ship's systems. Haiyan-Wu studied the displays, trying to understand how Vorthak technology worked. It was different from human machines, but the basic ideas were the same. "Show me the dragon control system," Haiyan-Wu asked. Tae-Min touched a panel, and new pictures appeared. The screen showed Infernus in his chamber, with lines of energy connecting to the metal collars around his neck. Numbers scrolled beside the image, frequency readings, power levels, neural feedback data. "This is wrong," Haiyan-Wu said immediately. "Look at these numbers. What do you mean?" Taemin asked. "The frequency is too high. It's like—" Haiyan-Wu searched for simple words. "Imagine you're trying to talk to someone, but instead of speaking normally, you're screaming at them all the time. That's what these collars are doing to the dragon's brain." Taemin studied the display more carefully. "I see what you mean. But Engineer Thekmor designed this system. He was very smart." "Smart people can make mistakes too," Haiyan-Wu said, "especially if they don't understand what they're working with." They spent hours studying the control system. Haiyan-Wu asked many questions, and Taemin translated the alien writing for him. Slowly, they began to understand the problem. The original designer had thought dragons were just animals, dangerous beasts that needed to be controlled by force. But Haiyan-Wu could see that dragons were much more intelligent than anyone realized. The control collars were trying to override the dragon's natural thoughts, causing constant mental pain. "We need to go see Infernus," Haiyan-Wu said. "I want to try something." "The queen said you could only work in the engineering section," Taemin warned. "The queen wants her dragon fixed." "I can't fix him from here." Taemin looked worried, but he led Haiyan-Wu back to the dragon chamber. The massive room was empty except for Infernus, who lay curled in the center like a sleeping mountain. As they entered, the dragon's head lifted. His orange eyes focused on Hyun-woo, and he made that gentle rumbling sound again. "Hello, big fellow," Hyun-woo said softly. "How are you feeling today?" Infernus tried to stand but stumbled. The control collars sparked with painful energy, and the dragon let out a low moan. "The collars hurt him when he tries to move," Taemin observed. "I never noticed that before." Hyun-woo walked closer, moving slowly so he wouldn't scare the dragon. "That's because nobody ever watched him carefully. They just saw a weapon, not a living being." To Taemin's amazement, Hyun-woo sat down near the dragon's head. Infernus lowered his massive snout until it was only a few feet away. This close, they could hear the dragon's labored breathing. "You're tired, aren't you?" Hyun-woo said gently. "Your head hurts all the time." Infernus made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. It was a sound no Vorthok had ever heard from the mighty dragon. Hyun-woo began to hum a simple tune, something his grandmother had taught him long ago. It was a working song, meant to calm nervous animals while you fixed their problems. Something amazing happened. Infernus's breathing began to slow and deepen. The tension in his massive body started to relax. The dragon's eyes, which had been dim with pain, began to brighten slightly. "How are you doing that?" Taemin whispered. "Dragons aren't just weapons," Hyun-woo explained quietly. "They're intelligent creatures. They respond to kindness, just like people do." Taemin watched in wonder as the human continued to calm the dragon with gentle sounds and movements. In all his years working on the ship, he had never seen anyone treat Infernus like this. The Vorthak way was to control through fear and force, but Hyun-woo was using something completely different: respect and compassion. "Can you understand me?" Hyun-woo asked the dragon. "I know you can't speak our language, but do you understand?" Infernus moved his great head up and down, a clear nod. Taemin's scales turned pale with shock. He nodded. "Dragons don't do that." "This dragon does," Hyun-woo said, because someone finally asked him a question instead of just giving him orders. The chamber door burst open with a loud crash. Queen Nixara stormed in, her face dark with anger. Behind her came several guards with their weapons ready. "What are you doing here?" the queen demanded. "I ordered you to work in the engineering section." "I needed to understand the dragon better," Hyun-woo said calmly, not moving from his spot near Infernus. "You dare disobey me?" The queen's claws extended, gleaming sharp in the red light, but before she could take another step, something incredible happened. Infernus moved his massive body between the queen and Hyun-woo. The dragon's head swung around to face the queen, and for the first time in years, his eyes blazed with real fire. The dragon didn't roar or threaten. He simply positioned himself as a shield, protecting the human who had shown him kindness. The queen stopped walking. Her mouth fell open in complete shock. "And F.E.R. What are you doing?" The dragon looked at his supposed master with steady, intelligent eyes. Then he turned back to Hyun-woo and made that gentle rumbling sound again. "He's protecting me," Hyun-woo said simply, "because I'm trying to help him." "Impossible!" the queen hissed. "He obeys only me. I am his master." "No," Hyun-woo said, standing up slowly. "You're his captor? There's a difference." The words hit Queen Nixara like a physical blow. Her entire identity was built on being the dragon's master, the one person who could control the ultimate weapon. But here was her dragon, defying her. To protect a human mechanic, Era stepped forward from behind the guards. "Sister, look at him. Really look." The queen forced herself to study her dragon. Infernus stood straighter than he had in months. His eyes were brighter, more alert. Even his breathing seemed easier. Just from a few minutes with the human, he looked more alive than he had in years. "How?" the queen whispered. "He needs respect, not control," Hyun-woo explained. "He needs to be treated like the intelligent being he is. The collars aren't just causing physical pain, they're crushing his spirit." Taemin found his voice. "Your Majesty, I have been watching. The human speaks to Infernus like a friend." And the dragon responds, "Friends?" The queen laughed harshly. "Dragons don't have friends, they have masters and prey." Infernus turned his head toward the queen and made a different sound. deeper, sadder. It was the sound of disappointment. For the first time in her life, Queen Nixara felt truly confused. Everything she believed about power and control was being challenged by a simple human mechanic and his gentle way with her dragon. "Fix the collars," she said suddenly. "Fix them now." "It will take time," Hyan Wu warned. "And I'll need to work closely with Infernus. He needs to trust the process." "Trust," the queen repeated the word like it was in a foreign language. "Yes," Hyan Wu said. "Trust, something you can't take by force, something that has to be earned." As the queen looked at her dragon, really looked at him, she began to see what the human saw. A magnificent, intelligent creature who had been suffering in silence for years. A being who deserved better than to be just a weapon, but that would mean admitting she had been wrong about everything, and Queen Nixara had never been wrong about anything in her life, or so she had always believed. 5 days passed before Queen Nixara decided to have her entertainment. She wanted to see the brave human mechanic face her greatest weapon. Most prisoners wet themselves when they saw Infernus for the first time. She wondered how long this one's courage would last. The queen ordered her guards to bring Hyan Wu to the dragon chamber. As they walked through the ship's dark corridors, the air grew hotter. Strange red lights pulsed along the walls like a heartbeat. The roaring sounds got louder with each step. "You go to your death, human," growled one of the guards. "The queen feeds disobedient slaves to the dragon." Hyan Wu said nothing. He was busy studying the ship's design. The metal walls were thicker here, and he could see burn marks on some surfaces. Whatever lived down here was powerful enough to damage even this strong alien ship. They reached a massive door covered in warning symbols. The guards stepped back as it slowly opened with a grinding sound. Hot air rushed out, carrying the smell of sulfur and something else, something sick. The dragon chamber was enormous, bigger than a football stadium. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. In the center sat Infernus, the most terrifying creature Hyan Wu had ever seen. The dragon was beautiful and horrible at the same time. His black scales reflected the red lighting like polished metal. Each scale was as big as Hyan Wu's hand. The dragon's head was larger than a car, with glowing orange eyes and teeth like swords. His wings were folded against his sides, but even folded they looked powerful enough to create hurricanes. Queen Nixara entered the chamber wearing her ceremonial armor. She walked with confidence, her crown gleaming in the firelight. Behind her came Era, her sister and chief advisor. Era looked worried, but she always looked worried when they visited the dragon. "Behold Infernus," the queen announced, her voice echoing in the vast space. "The destroyer of fleets, the burning death of my enemies." She expected Hyan Wu to fall to his knees or scream in terror. Instead, the human stepped closer to the dragon and tilted his head like he was listening to something. "He's hurt," Hyan Wu said quietly. The queen's smile vanished. "What did you say?" "Your dragon is in pain," Hyan Wu repeated, louder this time. "Look at how he moves." Everyone stared at the mechanic like he had gone crazy. No one questioned the queen's perfect weapon. But Hyan Wu was right, and once he pointed it out, even the guards could see it. Infernus moved slowly, carefully. His left wing hung slightly lower than his right. When he breathed, there was a wheeze in the sound. His great head swayed from side to side like he was dizzy. Most telling of all, his eyes were dim. They should have blazed with fire, but instead, they looked tired and sad. "You lie," Queen Nixara hissed. "Infernus is perfect. He is the ultimate weapon." "He's sick," Hyan Wu said simply. "And he's been sick for a long time." The queen's anger filled the chamber like heat from a furnace. Her scales darkened to deep black and her claws extended. "How dare you insult my dragon?" "Guards, throw him into the pit." But before the guards could move, something unexpected happened. Infernus lowered his massive head and looked directly at Hyan Wu. The dragon's orange eyes focused on the small human with what looked like curiosity. Hyan Wu felt no fear. He had worked with dangerous machines all his life. He knew that most dangerous things were only dangerous when they were broken or misunderstood. "Hello, big fellow," Hyan Wu said softly. "You don't feel good, do you?" Infernus made a sound. Not a roar, but something gentler. Almost like a cat's purr, but deep and rumbling. Ara stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Sister, did you see that? The dragon ... He responded to the human. "Impossible," the queen snapped. "Only I can communicate with Infernus, only I control him." To prove her point, she reached out with her mind, using her telepathic powers to command the dragon. "Infernus! Show this human your fire." The dragon tried to obey. He lifted his head and opened his mouth. But instead of the devastating plasma blast that could melt steel, only a weak flame came out. Infernus stumbled and nearly fell. His breathing became labored. Hyun-woo saw what others missed. When the queen used her mind powers, the dragon got worse. Something about her control was hurting him. "Stop," Hyun-woo said urgently. "You're making him sicker. I am doing no such thing." The queen roared. "I am his master. I know what is best for him." But Era was watching carefully now. She had always been the smart one, the one who asked questions. "Sister, when did Infernus last fly at full speed? When did he last breathe his strongest fire?" The queen opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She couldn't remember. For months, maybe years, the dragon had been getting weaker. She had told herself it was just age or laziness. She had never considered that something might be wrong. Hyun-woo walked closer to the dragon, ignoring the gasps from the guards. Infernus lowered his head until it was only a few feet away. This close, Hyun-woo could see the problem more clearly. "There," he said, pointing to a spot behind the dragon's head. "Do you see those metal rings around his neck?" Everyone looked. There were indeed metal rings embedded in the dragon's scales, almost hidden by the natural ridges. They glowed with the same energy as the ship's power systems. "Those are control collars," Hyun-woo explained. "But they're not working right. The frequency is wrong. Instead of controlling him, they're causing constant pain." Era moved closer to get a better look. "By the stars, he's right. Look at the burn marks around the metal. The collars are overheating." "Impossible," Queen Nixara said, but her voice was less certain now. "The collars were designed by our best engineers. They cannot be flawed." Han-woo reached out slowly and touched one of the metal rings. It was burning hot. Infernus winced but didn't pull away. The dragon seemed to understand that the human was trying to help. "Who designed these?" Hyun-woo asked. "Engineer Thekmer," Era answered. "He died 3 years ago." "Did anyone check his work after he died? Did anyone maintain the system?" The queen and Era looked at each other. The truth was ugly and embarrassing. No one had dared to question Thekmer's design. No one had wanted to get close enough to the dragon to check the equipment. "These collars are torturing him," Hyun-woo said firmly. "Every day, every hour. That's why he's sick. That's why he's weak." Infernus made that gentle rumbling sound again. He was looking at Hyun-woo with something that might have been hope. Queen Nixara felt her world shifting beneath her feet. If the human was right, then everything she believed about controlling Infernus was wrong. Her perfect weapon was suffering, and she had been too proud to see it. "Fix it," she said suddenly. "What?" Hyun-woo asked. "Fix it," the queen repeated, her voice hard as steel. "If you're right about the problem, then fix it. Make my dragon strong again. And if I can't?" The queen's smile was cold and dangerous. "Then you will learn what dragon fire really feels like." Hyun-woo looked up at Infernus. The dragon was watching him with those tired, hopeful eyes. "I'll need tools," the mechanic said. "And I'll need someone who understands your technology." "You will have whatever you need," the queen promised. "But human, if you fail, if this is some trick, I will make your death last for days." Hyun-woo nodded. Calmly, he had made a promise to a sick dragon, and he always kept his promises, even if it killed him. Queen Nixara stared at her dragon for a long time. Infernus still stood between her and Hyun-woo, his massive body like a living wall. The queen had seen her dragon destroy enemy ships and burn entire cities, but she had never seen him protect. "Something before?" "Very well," she said finally, her voice cold and controlled. "Fix the collars, human. But know this, if you fail, if this is some trick to escape, I will feed you to him piece by piece. I understand, Hyun-woo replied calmly. But I'll need complete access to the control systems. And I'll need Taemin to help me. The queen looked at the young engineer. Taemin straightened up, trying to look brave. I will help, Your Majesty. The humans' ideas are interesting. See that you do not disappoint me, the queen warned. Then she turned and left the chamber, her guards following behind her. Only Era remained, watching everything with thoughtful eyes. Be careful, human, Era said quietly. My sister's pride has been hurt today. That makes her dangerous. After Era left, Hyun-woo and Taemin got to work. They spent the next 3 days studying the dragon control system from every angle. Hyun-woo taught Taemin how to look at problems differently. Your people think about control, Hyun-woo explained as they worked. You want to force things to obey. But sometimes the best way to control something is to stop trying to control it. I do not understand, Taemin said, looking confused. Watch this. Hyun-woo picked up a tool and tried to force a stuck bolt. It wouldn't move. Then he applied oil to it and turned it gently. The bolt came loose easily. Force broke the bolt. Patience fixed the problem. Taemin's eyes widened. You mean we should work with the dragon, not against him? Exactly. The callers are fighting against his natural brain patterns. That's what causes the pain. We need to make them work with his patterns instead. They discovered that dragons had very complex nervous systems. The control collars were designed to override the dragon's thoughts, but dragon brains were too sophisticated for such crude methods. It was like trying to control a computer by hitting it with a hammer. Look at these readings, Taemin said, pointing to a screen. When the dragon is calm, his brain waves have a beautiful pattern, but when the collars activate, everything becomes chaos. That's the pain you're seeing, Hyun-woo explained. Every time the queen uses her mind powers through the collars, it's like screaming at him with a voice made of electricity. They work day and night, designing a new system. Instead of forcing control, the new collars would create a communication link. The queen could still direct the dragon, but it would feel like asking instead of commanding. The frequency needs to be much lower, Hyun-woo said, adjusting the settings. And we need to add filters here and here to protect his natural thought patterns. Taemin was amazed by how much he was learning. Human engineering was different from Vorthek methods, but it was also more elegant. Where Vorthek technology used brute force, human technology used cleverness. Your people are not as weak as we thought, Taemin admitted. Different doesn't mean weak, Hyun-woo replied. Your ships are stronger than ours, but our tools are smarter. Maybe we could learn from each other. On the 4th day, they were ready to test the new system. But first, they needed to remove the old collars from Infernus. This was the dangerous part. They entered the dragon chamber with their tools and the new equipment. Infernus was waiting for them, his great head lifting as they approached. The dragon looked tired but hopeful. Hello, big fellow, Hyun-woo said softly. We're going to try to help you today, but it might hurt at first. Infernus nodded slowly. He understood. Hyun-woo began working on the first collar while Taemin monitored the dragon's vital signs. The metal was hot and fused with the dragon's scales. It had been there so long that removing it was like surgery. Easy, easy, Hyun-woo murmured as Infernus winced in pain. I know it hurts, just a little more. The first collar came free with a shower of sparks. Infernus let out a long sigh, and some of the tension left his massive shoulders. The burned skin underneath was red and angry, but it would heal. 1 down, 2 to go, Hyun-woo said. The second collar was harder to remove. It had dug deeper into the dragon's flesh. Infernus trembled with pain, but he held still, trusting the human to help him. Almost there, Hyun-woo said. You're being very brave. When the second collar came free, Infernus made a sound like a grateful purr. His breathing became easier, and his eyes grew brighter. The third collar was the worst. It was connected directly to the dragon's spinal cord, and removing it was extremely dangerous. One wrong move could paralyze or kill Infernus. I need steady hands for this, Hyun-woo said. Taemin, can you help me? I I will try, the young engineer said nervously. Together, they worked on the final collar. Sweat dripped down Hyun Woo's face as he carefully disconnected each wire. Infernus shook with pain, but he never moved away or tried to stop them. Finally, with a soft click, the last collar came free. The change was immediate and dramatic. Infernus lifted his head high for the first time in years. His eyes blazed with inner fire, bright and intelligent. He spread his wings, both wings, evenly, and they were magnificent. The dragon looked at Hyun Woo and Taemin with clear, grateful eyes. Then he did something no one expected. He lowered his great head and gently touched Hyun Woo's shoulder with his snout. It was a gesture of thanks and friendship. Amazing, Taemin whispered. He looks completely different. He feels different. Too, I bet, Hyun Woo said, smiling. Now let's install the new system. The new collars were much smaller and lighter. They didn't dig into the dragon's flesh but rested gently on his scales. When Hyun Woo activated them, Infernus didn't flinch or cry out. Instead, he tilted his head like he was listening to something interesting. How does that feel? Hyun Woo asked. Infernus made a soft, pleased sound. The new system wasn't hurting him, it was talking to him. Now we test it, Taemin said nervously. Should we call the queen? Not yet, Hyun Woo replied. Let's make sure everything works first. He activated the communication link and sent a simple thought. Can you hear me? Infernus nodded immediately. Then, to their amazement, they heard something in their minds. It wasn't words, but it was definitely communication. The dragon was sending them feelings of gratitude and relief. He's talking to us, Taemin gasped. The dragon is actually talking to us. Not talking, Hyun Woo corrected. Sharing. This is how dragons really communicate, through emotions and images, not words. They spent an hour testing the new system. Infernus could understand complex requests and respond with his own thoughts. He could share what he was feeling and even show them mental pictures of things he remembered. For the first time, they learned what it was like to be a dragon. They felt his joy at being free from pain, his gratitude to Hyun Woo, and his curiosity about these strange new friends. This is incredible, Taemin said. We have been treating dragons like animals for centuries. But they're as smart as we are, maybe smarter. Different kinds of intelligence, Hyun Woo agreed. They think in ways we don't understand yet. A loud sound echoed through the chamber, the door opening. Queen Nixara strode in, followed by her guards and Era. The queen stopped short when she saw Infernus. Her dragon stood tall and proud, his scales gleaming with health. His eyes were bright and alert, focused on her with an intelligence she had never noticed before. He looked magnificent and completely different from the sick, tired creature she remembered. What have you done? The queen whispered. I fixed him, Hyun Woo said simply, like you asked. Queen Nixara stared at her dragon, hardly believing what she saw. Infernus was everything she had always claimed. He was powerful, magnificent, perfect. But now she could see that he was also something more. He was free, and she wasn't sure how she felt about that. Queen Nixara walked slowly around Infernus, studying her dragon with new eyes. The change was impossible to ignore. His scales gleamed like polished metal, his wings were strong and even, and his breathing was deep and steady. Most shocking of all, his eyes followed her with clear intelligence. Show me, the queen commanded. Show me what you have done. Hyun Woo activated the new communication system. Instead of the harsh mental screaming of the old callers, this felt like opening a door between minds. The queen gasped as she felt Infernus's thoughts for the first time, not his obedience, but his actual feelings. The dragon was curious about her surprise. He was grateful to be free from pain. And underneath it all, there was something that made the queen step backward in shock. Infernus was judging her. The dragon remembered every moment of suffering, every cruel command, every time she had ignored his pain. He he thinks, the queen whispered. He always thought, Hyun Woo said. Gently, you just couldn't hear him before. Commander Beora, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped forward with her hand on her weapon. Your Majesty, this is dangerous. If the dragon can think freely, he might rebel. He might turn against us. The queen looked at her military commander with troubled eyes. Ba-Ra was right to be worried. The Vorthic Empire was built on fear and control. If their ultimate weapon could think for itself, what did that mean for their power? The dragon should be destroyed, Ba-Ra continued. And the human with him, this knowledge is too dangerous. No, said Era firmly. Sister, look at Infernus, really look at him. He's stronger than he's been in years. We've spent so much energy controlling him that we forgot to let him be what he truly is. And what is that? The queen asked. Infernus himself answered. Through the new communication link, he shared an image, himself flying through space, not as a weapon of war, but as a guardian. He showed them memories of his homeworld, where dragons protected the sky and the land below. He had never wanted to be a destroyer. He wanted to be a protector. Te-Min spoke up, his voice shaking with excitement. Your Majesty, imagine what we could accomplish if we worked with the dragon instead of forcing him to obey. He could help us in ways we never imagined. Or he could burn us all, Ba-Ra snapped. Dragons are dangerous, whether they think or not. As if to prove her point, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the ship. A voice crackled over the communication system. Battle stations, enemy ships approaching. Admiral Kehoe's fleet has found us? The queen's face darkened. Kehoe was her greatest rival, a Vorthak admiral who wanted to take her throne. His fleet was almost as powerful as hers, and he had been hunting her for months. How many ships? The queen demanded. 15 war cruisers and a dreadnought, came the reply. They'll be in weapon range in 10 minutes. Ba-Ra drew her weapon and pointed it at Hyan-Wu. This is your fault, human. You've weakened our greatest weapon. Now we'll all die because of your meddling. But Queen Nixara was thinking. She looked at Infernus, who was watching the situation with alert, intelligent eyes. For years, she had sent her dragon into battle like a missile. Point him at the enemy and let him destroy everything. But what if there was a better way? Infernus, she said, using the new communication link, can you fight? Will you fight for us? The dragon's answer came not in words but in feelings and images. He would fight, but not blindly. He wanted to understand the battle, to work as part of a team. He showed her tactical ideas, ways to use his size and speed more cleverly than just charging in with fire and claws. He wants to help, the queen said, surprised. But he wants to do it smart, not just destructive. Your Majesty, Hyan-Wu? Saad carefully. If you're going into battle, I'd like to stay here with Infernus. He trusts me now. I might be able to help coordinate between you and him. Ba-Ra laughed harshly. Trust a human in battle? You're both insane. But Era nodded thoughtfully. It makes sense, sister. A dragon responds to the human better than anyone else. And we need every advantage we can get against Kehoe. The ship shuddered as enemy fire struck their shields. Time was running out. Queen Nixara made her decision. Human, you will stay with Infernus. Help him understand our tactics. Te-Min, you will monitor the communication systems. Ba-Ra, prepare all weapons. Era, take command of the bridge. Sister, you're not going to pilot the ship yourself, are you? Era asked with alarm. No, the queen said with a grim smile. I'm going to fly with my dragon. Everyone stared at her. No one had ever ridden a dragon in space combat before. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal. Your Majesty, Hainu said. Infernus can carry you, but you'll need to trust him completely. Let him choose how to move, when to attack. Don't try to control every moment. The queen nodded stiffly. Trust was not something that came easily to her, but she was learning. They moved quickly to prepare for battle. Infernus positioned himself near the ship's launch bay, his massive form crackling with excitement and nervous energy. The queen climbed onto his back, wearing her battle armor and carrying her personal weapons. Remember, Hyan-Wu called to her through the communication link. He's not just your weapon, he's your partner. The launch bay doors opened, revealing the star-filled darkness of space. In the distance, Kehoe's fleet approached like a swarm of metal predators. Their ships were painted black and red, bristling with weapons. Infernus, the queen said aloud. Her voice carried through the communication system to both the dragon and the humans below. Show me what you can really do. The dragon's response was pure joy. For the first time in years, he was going into battle as himself, not as a controlled weapon but as a thinking, planning warrior. Infernus launched himself into space with powerful beats of his wings. The queen felt the incredible strength beneath her, but also something new, purpose and intelligence guiding that strength. Through the communication link, Infernus shared his battle plan. Instead of charging straight at the enemy ships, he would use the asteroid field nearby for cover. He would strike fast and retreat, using hit-and-run tactics instead of brute force. Clever, the queen admitted. I never thought of fighting that way. The first enemy ship never saw them coming. Infernus swooped out of the asteroid field like a shadow, his plasma breath cutting through the ship's shields like they were made of paper. But instead of staying to finish the job, he immediately flew back into cover. What is he doing? Biora's voice crackled over the communication system. Why isn't he destroying them? He's thinking, the queen replied, and for the first time, she sounded proud instead of frustrated. Infernus struck again, this time at a different ship from a different angle. The enemy fleet tried to surround him, but he was too fast and too smart. He led them into the asteroid field where their larger ships couldn't maneuver effectively. Back on the ship, Hien Wu and Taemin watched the battle on their screens. The dragon was magnificent, moving through space like a deadly dancer. But more than that, he was thinking several moves ahead, using strategy instead of just strength. Look at that, Taemin breathed. He's not just fighting, he's outsmarting. Dragons are intelligent, Hien Wu reminded him. Maybe more intelligent than any of us realized. The battle was turning in their favor, but it was far from over. Admiral Kehoe still had his dreadnought, the largest and most dangerous ship in his fleet. And he was moving it into position for a final, devastating attack. Queen Nixara felt Infernus's concern through their link. The dreadnought was too big and too well armed to attack directly. They needed a different plan, but as she watched her dragon's mind work, calculating angles and possibilities, the queen realized something important. She didn't need to give him orders anymore, she just needed to trust him. Admiral Kehoe's massive dreadnought moved through space like a metal mountain. Its weapons could destroy entire cities, and its armor was thick enough to stop almost any attack. The ship's dark hull was covered in scars from 100 battles, and its crew was known for their cruelty. Sister, the dreadnought is targeting our main ship. Era's voice came through the communication system. Our shields won't hold against its main cannon. Queen Nixara felt Infernus's thoughts through their link. The dragon was studying the huge enemy ship, looking for weaknesses. She was amazed by how quickly his mind worked, seeing patterns and possibilities that she had missed. There, Infernus showed her through their mental connection. The dreadnought had a weak spot where its armor plates connected. It was small and hard to reach, but a precise plasma blast could cause serious damage. I see it, the queen said. But how do we get close enough? Infernus shared his plan through images and feelings. It was dangerous, incredibly dangerous, but it was also brilliant. He would use the enemy's own tactics against them. The dragon flew out of the asteroid field, making himself an obvious target. Kehoe's ships immediately focused all their fire on him. Laser beams and missiles filled the space around Infernus as he dodged and weaved through the deadly light show. What is he doing? Biora shouted over the communication system. He's going to get killed, but Hien Wu understood. He's drawing their fire away from our ship, and he's making them waste their ammunition. Infernus led the enemy ships in a deadly dance through space. He moved like liquid lightning, always just ahead of their weapons. The queen held on tight, trusting the dragon's movements completely. For the first time in her life, she wasn't trying to control the situation, she was part of it. Admiral Kehoe grew frustrated watching his ships chase the dragon. Enough games, he roared from his command bridge. All ships, formation attack, surround the beast. The enemy fleet moved to encircle Infernus, but the dragon was ready for this. He had led them exactly where he wanted them, close together, in a tight group. Now, Infernus communicated to the queen, The dragon suddenly changed direction, diving straight toward the center of the enemy formation. The ships tried to fire at him, but they were so close together that they risked hitting each other. Their careful formation became chaos as they tried to avoid shooting their own allies. Infernus burst through the enemy fleet like a comet, his plasma breath cutting across 3 ships at once. The controlled, precise attacks were nothing like his old berserker charges. Every blast had a purpose, every movement was calculated. Incredible, Taemin whispered, watching from the main ship. He's fighting like a master strategist. But the real test was still coming. The dreadnought loomed ahead, its main cannon charging for a shot that could destroy their ship. The weapon glowed with deadly energy, building up power for a devastating blast. Kiho's voice boomed across all communication channels. Surrender now, Nixara, and I will give you a quick death. Your pet dragon cannot save you from my dreadnought. Queen Nixara felt anger rise in her chest, but Infernus sent her a feeling of calm focus. The dragon had a plan, and he needed her to trust him completely. I trust you, she whispered to her. Dragon, Infernus flew straight at the dreadnought's main cannon. It looked like suicide, flying directly into the path of the most powerful weapon in Kiho's fleet. Sister, no. Era screamed over the communication system, but at the last second, Infernus did something impossible. He folded his wings tight against his body and spun like a drill, corkscrewing through the narrow gap between the cannon's energy beams. The queen felt her stomach drop as they spiraled through the deadly space, but she didn't try to take control. They emerged behind the cannon in the small blind spot that Infernus had spotted earlier. The dragon's plasma breath lanced out in a focused beam, striking the weak point in the dreadnought's armor with perfect precision. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The blast penetrated deep into the ship's power core, causing a chain reaction of explosions. The mighty dreadnought shuddered and began to break apart, its lights flickering and dying. Impossible, Kiho's voice cracked with disbelief. My ship ... my perfect ship ... The Infernus wasn't finished. As the enemy admiral tried to escape in a smaller vessel, the dragon communicated something surprising to Queen Nixara. He didn't want to destroy Kiho, he wanted to capture him alive? Why? The queen asked through their link. Infernus showed her images of Kiho's crew. Many of them were young, frightened soldiers who had been forced to fight. They didn't deserve to die. For their admiral's ambition? The dragon's compassion surprised the queen, but it also made her think. Attention Kiho's fleet, Queen Nixara broadcast on all channels. Your admiral is defeated. Any ship that surrenders now will be spared. Any crew that wishes to join my fleet will be welcomed. It was not the Vorthik way. Usually defeated enemies were destroyed or enslaved. But something had changed in the queen's thinking during the battle. To everyone's amazement, most of Kiho's surviving ships powered down their weapons. Crews began sending surrender signals. They had seen what real leadership looked like. Not the cruel domination of Kiho, but the partnership between Queen and Dragon. As they flew back to the main ship, Queen Nixara felt Infernus's contentment through their bond. The dragon was proud of their victory, but more than that, he was happy. For the first time in years, he had fought as himself rather than as a weapon. Back in the dragon chamber, a crowd had gathered to welcome them. Hengwu stepped forward, with a smile on his face. How do you feel? He asked Infernus. The dragon's response came through the communication system, shared with everyone present. Joy, freedom, and hope. But also something else, respect for the humans in Vorthek who had helped him become whole again. Queen Nixara climbed down from Infernus's back, her mind spinning with new thoughts. Everything she had believed about power was changing. Control, through fear, had made her enemies, but partnership and respect had won her allies. Taemin, she said to the young engineer, I want you to study human technology more closely. Learn from their methods. Yes, Your Majesty, Taemin replied eagerly. The queen turned to Hyunwoo. And you, human, I offer you a position in my fleet. You have shown me things I never imagined possible. Hyunwoo bowed respectfully. I would be honored, Your Majesty. But I have one request. Speak. Let me help you build better relationships with other species. Dragons aren't the only intelligent creatures in the galaxy. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together instead of conquering each other. Queen Nixara looked around the chamber. She saw Ara nodding thoughtfully, Tayman's excited expression, and even some of her guards looking interested in these new ideas. Most importantly, she saw Infernus watching her with those intelligent, hopeful eyes. For centuries, the Vorthic Empire had grown through conquest and fear. But perhaps it was time to try a different path. Very well, the Queen said finally. We will try this ... cooperation, but slowly. Old ways die hard. Hyunwoo smiled. All great changes start with small steps. As the days passed, word of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. The story was incredible. A human mechanic had healed a space dragon, and together they had shown an alien queen a better way to lead. Some called it impossible. Others called it the beginning of a new age. In the dragon chamber, Infernus rested peacefully for the first time in years. The pain was gone, replaced by purpose and friendship. Nearby, Hyunwoo worked on new designs for communicating with other intelligent species. Taemin helped him, eager to learn human engineering techniques. Queen Nixara often visited them, no longer the cruel tyrant she had once been, but still proud and strong. She was learning that true power came not from making others fear you, but from earning their respect and loyalty. And in the vast darkness of space, other species watched and wondered. If the mighty Vorthic Empire could change, perhaps there was hope for peace among the stars. The mechanic had fixed more than just a dragon's pain. He had fixed the beginning of a better future for everyone.